Hey, I'm MysticSlime, and this is my no-hit of the final boss of Chapter 5. I saw online that people have been struggling a bit with the chapter and this boss specifically, and honestly it is a bit difficult. So for people who aren't as familiar with shmups, I wanted to do a no-hit run as a visual guide for how to dodge a lot of the attacks. Afterwards, I'm also going to talk a bit more about my general strategy and thought process behind a lot of the attacks, so feel free to stick around until then or skip ahead to that timestamp. But for now, here's the no-hit.
One more for the finish. Drop out. With your powers combined, Omega Flowery! Last, Gerona! 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 Gerona!
Now let's get more into specifics. The biggest issue with this fight for a lot of people is the new Orange Soul mode, which constantly moves you to the right and gives you a chargeable dash to break blue obstacles. This definitely takes some getting used to, but there are a couple of things the game doesn't explicitly tell you about it. Probably the biggest one is that while charging the dash will make you go farther, hitting any blue bullet with it will extend your dash regardless of how long you charged it for. This essentially means that on long chains of blue projectiles like these, even just a tiny dash will let you get past all of them since they extend the duration of it. This is something I didn't quite pick up on my first time through, as I would constantly try to fully charge dashes to make it through when I didn't need to. Another small thing to note about the Orange Soul mode is that charging does slow down your horizontal move speed, so be careful about holding it for too long on bullet patterns where you need to go fast. Next, let's talk about how to play your turns. You can't win by fighting, as Susie and Rouse will just flat out refuse, so the only option is to spare. In order to progress the fight, you need to use Axe with Chris, which all costs a lot of TP. There will be one option for a lot of TP that doesn't waste Susie and Rouse's turn, and one that costs a bit less but does waste their turns. It's always worth using the more expensive option as to conserve the other's turns, as even if you aren't planning to use items or spells with the other two, it's actually just more TP efficient. In this fight, Susie and Rouse's Axe give you 12% TP, so you can see in this case where even when I don't need to use spells or items, it's just more TP efficient to use the more expensive Chris act and then use S and R actions. If you're trying to play it a little more safe, even just using the Chris solo act and then defending with Susie and Rouse is slightly more TP efficient than using the act with all three of them, and also gives you a lot more defense for the upcoming attack. As for items, the Tension Max is great because of how much TP the axe costs, and revivements are also fantastic if you have them. If you're out of revivements though, Rousey does have a new spell this chapter called Revive Song, and while it does cost a lot of TP to use, it can definitely help out in a pinch. Because of this, try to protect and keep Rousey especially healthy throughout the fight. Now for how to dodge a lot of the more challenging attacks. I'm not going to cover every single one, as I find a lot in the first half to be pretty easy, but I'll go over the ones that gave me the most trouble in my no-hit attempts. First is Flowery's Gerona attack. He uses this a few times, and while it isn't too bad to dodge, it can get tricky because of how fast he does it sometimes. I found the best way to completely avoid damage is after each dash to immediately charge up another one in preparation, and if you release right as he starts moving towards you, you'll always parry it because of how long the fully charged dash lasts. It's also worth noting that if you want to get a little risky, you can perfect parry him by dashing at the last second, which does give slightly more TP. Where the fight starts to get a bit more difficult though is when the other flowers start joining him. For this Seth attack, I find it really easy to immediately fully charge dashes in between each leap, as again, it'll slow you down and make it very easy and consistent to dodge. As for the Aqua attacks where you have to bounce on these lily pads to avoid the knives, just make sure to keep track of your speed as it will quickly start to ramp up. If you do happen to fall off of the lily pads, you can get back onto them with another dash, but it's also possible to dodge in between the knives as well. Definitely not recommended, but it is pretty swaggy and good to know as a last resort. In my opinion, the fight gets to be very difficult once Orange and Green show up. Flowery will do more Gerona attacks, except this time Orange will also attack alongside him with a different timing, having the sound cue of Ja-Orange. Orange's attacks happen much slower than Flowery's and will hit you if you dash too early. quickly, so you need to wait a little bit when she does it. Since both voice clips start out with the same "j" sound, I instead look at which one of them glows to see who's attacking. If it's flowery, then dash almost immediately, and again, if it's orange, then wait to dash. Orange will also send out 2 boxing gloves whenever you parry her, so just make sure to keep that in mind. Their next attack is exactly the same, but gets green involved, where either one of them will now fake their next attack and have green shoot out bullets instead. When this happens, it's completely fine if you dash anyways. Just make sure to avoid the fire and start charging another dash, as one of them will most likely attack again before green's fire is completely gone. The last big phase of the fight is with blue and yellow, and this time they only have this attack where blue sends out flowers and yellow explodes them. You need to propel yourself off the bamboo so that the vines chasing you don't catch up, and it's definitely one of the hardest attacks in the fight. A lot of it does come down to raw dodging capability, but my advice would be to try and not be directly in front of blue's flowers when they explode, and that you don't need to hit every bamboo in order to outspeed the vines. So focus on avoiding the exploding flowers more than trying to accelerate with the bamboo. After you use the Justice Act for 100 TP, pick the moss, and this will initiate the final attack of the fight. The blue spots in the bamboo get really small, so be sure to only do tiny dashes and immediately start going in the direction of the next one after every dash. Next is just 4 Girona attacks into one final attack with a bunch of spinning projectiles. I find that going in the middle of these two and then going all the way down works about 90% of the time, but sometimes you can get a little unlucky and have this happen. I'm not sure how tight it is, but if it does happen, you can dodge in between them, which funnily enough is what I had to do in my no-hit. After this though, all you have to do is use Susie's idea and then do the climbing and 2D fight sections to finish the battle and the chapter. These are both fairly easy, but it's worth noting that you can skip a tiny bit of the climbing section by charging a jump right here. But with that, that's about all the advice I have left to give. I really hope this helps, and hey, if it does, then maybe consider subscribing for more Deltarune videos. Either way though, hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you next time.